You know he's a proud guy. He's not going to take all our fussing lying down.
That's the idea.
For older people, falling and breaking a hip can be devastating. For easy ways to make home safer, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Orthopedic Trauma Association.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We got a lot of stuff that we have been, of course, talking about, discussing, getting into here lately, but this is the day when we really get into a lot of it. Matt Olson already over with us on the social media, Facebook. Heyo to you there as well. You are correct, sir. A lot of stuff that we have been discussing, and, well, this is that time in the week, that very special, important time in every show's week, when we get into, well, this show anyway, we get into all of the comments and stuff that particularly we couldn't get to, but really all of it, Free-for-All Friday is what we call it, because, well, delving into the issues that may not have made, like, the top of the headlines, may not have been the most important thing, or the really really attention-grabbing kind of things, this is when we do it. So we have those phone lines, we have the comments, we have it all open, and that's what we'll be focusing on through both hours of the program. As Marky Mendingo also saying, it's about time. I know Friday never gets here soon enough, and yet always seems to be so far away from the next one. I know it's a whole week away from now, but don't worry, we got 2 hours coming up for you of everything that y'all want to talk about, y'all want to discuss, y'all want to get into, but also don't worry, we got some topics to go over here. Don't worry, we're never going to run out of stuff to talk about on this show, because we've probably fallen into a black hole if that were ever to happen here. Like, seriously, there's no lack. I mean, you want to start, where do you want to start here today? Because locally, here we are, and Flaco saying Free For All, great song here. I think about Free Bird there. I mean, that might be a good one. Maybe that should be our theme song coming into Friday, is Free Bird, and we just take a nice 7-minute and change break at the top of every hour to get to there. No, we won't do that. We need all the time that we can get here, because, well, a lot of things, I know locally. Let's start locally, just for argument's sake. We have at least one incident of a person found near the ball, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, suffering from heat stroke and in critical condition, having been taken near the Sunland Park, New Mexico part of the wall that El Paso Fire Chief Daniel Medrano confirmed. Not clear how long they were out there, but also noting that a lot of those trying to cross in that area are often unaccustomed to this heat, and this is definitely, the dry heat specifically, noting that, Guatemalans, Hondurans, and it's a high humidity kind of area, that they may be more used to that, but not here. And also we have Governor Greg Abbott, not honestly too long before our show here today, bringing something back up that has been in our news recently-ish, the whole Operation Lone Star busing. Now, that had fallen off the headlines, that for sure, but you may recall that as part of the whole state-level enforcement, Governor Greg Abbott was strongly suggesting and encouraging any of the people being, captured here in Texas, particularly by state level, like state troopers, the Texas military department that is working on those aspects of this, and putting them on a bus to Washington, D.C. And so Governor Greg Abbott now touting that there have been thousands of migrants bused to our nation's capital. That definitely fallen off the headlines. I'd only heard about it and, frankly, searching out for it, and in some tweets of local organizations that responding to it up there, not exactly being taken as a kindness in that neck of the woods, I will say, by the responding organizations. But the governor saying that, among other things, that this crisis is caused by President Biden, quote unquote. Just 2 years ago, we had the most secure border in decades, and now under President Biden, we have the highest number of border crossings in history, full, end quote. Blanca Jimenez saying that, and Abbott would make a great guest. If you got his phone number, tell him to give me a holler, because yes, I would love to have the governor on here. We weren't quite able to get him the last time he came into town here, but I will definitely, heck, I'll talk with any governor. You bring me a governor, and I will interview the heck out of him and bring you something good here. Marky Mendingo saying on the situation that happened locally here, falling 30 feet, being dehydrated can bring death quickly. Thought the CBP, we're going to spray axle grease on the top 5 feet, slip and slide. I don't think that was a plan. Maybe something that you had in, your own personal dream there, maybe. But I mean, I'm not sure that would actually do much of anything, because I've literally, there was one of the KFOX reporters, I want to say, that was doing some of the recent work, particularly in that Santa Teresa area where there's that gap in the wall and near, on the Mexican side of Napra, of course, where there was things being, people climbing over and then just sliding down. So I'm not sure that would be that much of an inhibition, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, clearly there are more solutions needed, because just trying to put up a good enough barrier, well, then you're just in an arms race of how good the barrier technology is versus the amount of scalability that it has, and basically putting it against the ingenuity of those trying to cross. So that's maybe not the best solution to look at here. Sure, it may be a temporary one, but eventually it's going to get defeated. Probably the more important one, and the one that we keep needing and never getting close to, I don't care which party is in part of, the control, the mechanisms, deciding what should happen, we've been getting close to, is dealing with what exactly is causing it to come here, dealing with the international crime organization, shall we say, known as those delightful cartels. Yeah, I would love to see a nice transnational enforcement effort on that, but if I was holding my breath on that, I'd be long since passed out. Marky Mendingo saying they do build Warner ladders in San Geronimo. If you're talking about those kind where, if you see a lot of building that happens, particularly in like the Colonias or in the outskirts of like even Ciudad Juarez, last time I was there, probably decade and a half ago. It's been a minute. But the Raspas de Esperanza, the sticking up pieces of rebar that are kind of in a, more or less rectangular or square shape, they will essentially use those, make a little J-hook ladder, climb up that, and then slide down the other side. Part of the problem with those also is that, given the wall construction material being a weathered, you go down Paisano Drive, you can see it for yourself there. Yeah, more Paisano than Donovan, though you can also see part of it on Donovan, really, if you want to. The material used for the wall or even the border fence section, that kind of, rebar material would blend in with it. So that's, again, part of the quote-unquote arms race. I'm not talking about literal arms, though that has been a concern at other points in time, but just in the barrier and efforts to defeat the barrier kind of race of who can do better. It's an eternal one, and just focusing on that has often been something I've been frustrated with, as I think a lot of others have been as well. But that's just one of the things going on, and some of the election stuff, because we've talked a little bit about what's going on in South Texas. That was something that Governor Greg Abbott put out as a very vocal point, as well as have statewide Republicans as their real focus for this coming race. An interesting article out from the Texas Tribune as of the end of this week, that they're starting to pay more attention to Texas Senate District 27, noted as the only competitive Senate seat in November, but whether they will go all in remains the question. Of course, we've talked more than a little bit about some of those fundraising numbers, the amount of money being spent, and often, particularly in those more localized state races, Senate districts are a bit bigger than your standard and just House district when it comes to the Texas legislature, at the very least. It still depends on, local politics, but if you really want to tilt it one way or the other, big outside spending outside of that district anyway tends to end up making a difference here. So there's a lot more to get to there, but we're already coming up on the need for the first break of this hour right now. We got a lot more to get to, but again, if you want to call in during the show, that is what we do today, as we have a Calvin Williams, Kathy Codry, Marky Mendingo, RJ, Blanca Jimenez, Matt Olson, more tuning in, chiming in, dropping those likes and reacts. We appreciate Michael Robert Tipton. Make sure to go check out his show, going to be coming up here in just a little bit over on our sister station, Fox Sports 1380. Also, Ida Beza Gardner, Monica Cervantes, Marky Mendingo, Robbie Flores, Blanca Jimenez, and Matt Olson. Oh, there's just so much more to get to, and we'll keep doing that as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. But Fridays are the special one, because Free for All Friday is what we are doing and we'll keep doing. So if you want to get on the line, as we are taking those comments and calls throughout both hours of the program, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We got a lot to get to, and a lot more we'll discuss after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Couple of crashes I-10 westbound this afternoon so far at Trowbridge, and accidents blocking the right lane and causing a backup back to Airway Boulevard. I-10 westbound at Geronimo, police responding to a crash there. Joe Battle Boulevard northbound at Edgemere, accident there, expect delays. And in the lower valley on Memorial Highway southbound at Pan American, heavy congestion and the exit ramp blocked. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Red Pilled America is the storytelling show everyone is talking about. This week, we reveal the agenda behind the phrase cultural appropriation and how it's being used to keep you in check. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Running your car's air conditioning is the main contributor to reduced fuel economy in hot weather. Improve your fuel economy in hot weather by putting the windows down at lower speeds and using the AC with windows up at highway speeds. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Is your job recession-proof? Now might be the perfect time to switch careers and become an IT professional with My Computer Career. IT is listed as one of the top recession-proof professions. You could have your dream job in just months, not years. No experience needed. Take classes online or on campus, and financial aid is available to those who qualify, including the GI Bill. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Speaking of the immigration thing that is never far from our hearts, maybe not the right way to put it, but we definitely talk about it enough that it's definitely in there. I mean, there's more aspects of it, even nationally. I mean, anytime you're talking about immigration, to an extent, and border security, these very much intertwined issues, you get pretty quickly to the federal response, or in some people's eyes, the lack thereof. But one more bit of action that has happened as of, again, or after our show yesterday, actually, that the Supreme Court's now not allowing a reinstatement of a Biden policy limiting immigration arrests before it hears a Texas challenge to it. That the also article out from the Texas Tribune on that. Specifically, the administration told immigration officers to prioritize the detention of recent border crossers and immigrants who pose a threat to national security and public safety. A Texas judge has now said that guidance violated the federal laws. So, as these things keep doing so, going to head pretty well straight to the Supreme Court. but as also sometimes takes time for these to get through. This might be one of those expedited cases, something where there is something said a little bit sooner about it. But in the meantime, that policy is not going to be allowed to stay in place. Basically, informing law enforcement because, of course, being an executive branch agency, the Department of Homeland Security and all the agencies under it, including ICE, CBP, Border Patrol proper itself here, all have to follow parts of this. So that will still remain in place. And you may remember that there was, of course, the previous time that there was of the last Supreme Court session, the decision about what could or could not happen involving, well, not even Title 42, though that question is still a little bit up in the air, at least in my mind. Anyway, I think we can assume what's going to happen to it, but how they're actually going to move forward with it's another one entirely, or what policy or lack thereof is going to get put into place. But really, when it comes to the Remain in Mexico policy, so-called, technically the Migrant Protection Protocols, MPP, that being voted out at the end of the last Supreme Court term, one of the surprisingly last decisions they came out with, considering that they did not leave the whole overturning of Roe v. Wade for the last one. If you want to talk about blockbuster, you'd be hard-pressed to find another one. But yes, the removal of MPP being put, saying it is very much a federal power in terms of foreign policy. So they're continuing to look at this. Specifically, Justice Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson indicated they would have granted the administration's request to put the lower court ruling on hold, but the vote was 5-4, with the remaining justices voting against it while they instead hear that case. John Brownston then saying the Supreme Court should declare Biden to be illegal. As much as it sounds like you might like that, not exactly how the Supreme Court works, though. If you want to try and get a case up to them and say, sue the Biden administration for being, or Biden himself for being illegal and try to take it to the Supreme Court, you know what? Go for it. Just remember, I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. So consider it. I don't know. There have been weirder cases that have had better provenance. I don't know. This is pretty far. I mean, I think the best way to deal with this is to, well, specifically worry about the next election. Let me say the most productive outcome that I see coming from this, because we, of course, do have that one coming up in November, that ever so slightly little important thing that I'm going to keep talking to you about every day until we hit November, or any day we're on the show. Anyway, like, seriously, focus the efforts on where they matter, which is, again, one of the questions that statewide Republicans are wondering about, the purpose of focusing on how much money should be put in. Because even when it comes to the politics of this, you may be right as well, but if no one knows about it, are you going to get the votes you need to actually push it through? So that's another interesting one that I'll be paying attention to anyway as it comes to this, because dealing with it and actually putting the money where your mouth is another important one here. Honestly, I just see any talk of like reinstating, overturning any of that as being, I mean, sure, if you like chewing gum, it can make you chewing gum in a rocking chair kind of thing. May feel like you're doing something, but boy, you sure ain't really moving. It gets a little bit outside the realm of possibility for me. So focusing on what is actually, well, the most productive ends up being important to me, but y'all, of course, entitled to your opinion. Just know that it might be more effective or not in some ways. Again, we do have those phone lines open now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We will take on all the comments here today. And yes, some discussion going on of the January 6th hearings, the last one for now, anyway, the last televised one that is planned after much faffing about moving around time and things. I will just say this on the point here. I was not particularly surprised by anything that was brought up here. I mean, some finer points, the way they displayed it. Again, just as a reminder, it's not a trial. It's literally was never intended to be, even if they're trying to put on some air or some smackings of it, the primetime airing. There's meant to be essentially a pillory in the court of public opinion. That is the major point, which is why one of the things I've actually been thinking, I know that there was much consternation about the way it was being handled, the makeup of the committee, and how some were either refused or refused to be on it. That whole move parts out of it would, well, among other things, I just think it was a tactical error. If that was truly the intent of the Republicans, national Republicans specifically, to make sure that they would have, I mean, I think by putting the people up or who didn't or removed themselves, whatever the situation was from the committee, trying to say like, oh, it's illegitimate, making it sure it's not doing it. But again, the fine line I drew yesterday between these proceedings and what has already been recommended for a criminal investigative probe involving the Secret Service and their missing text logs, you might notice a little bit of a difference there, right? And that's because, sure, that one may actually result in criminal charges. I remain dubious that anything coming out of this set of hearings actually will, but that essentially was never really the point. And that was never even really secretly not the point. Because look at it, the entire point was to drag out as much as possible, put it out there in as, well, essentially a damaging way. I know this is probably not going to be a popular comparison. I see a lot of similarities on not necessarily the circumstances, but the purpose behind this and the Benghazi hearings. That, sure, there were definitely a lot of differences in the circumstances there, but in the purpose of the focus on them and how they were done about was essentially to really, well, deal with the person that was being investigated or being put forth in these hearings. Of course, previously Hillary Clinton. I know there's a lot of opinions about that, but in this case, Donald Trump. And if you don't see a similar purpose there, well, let us know what you think. That number to call, again, the phone line's open, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Calvin Williams saying, yeah, pretty much agree. It's not a trial. It's a way for them to show how they think and prove they ignore what doesn't fit their view. Okay, slightly different than what I was saying, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of cross purpose there as well here. But as I have said, we are, of course, taking those phone calls. And Calvin Williams saying, any lawyer on the January 6th committee should be investigated by their state bar. Maybe, but also, I mean, a lot of them have been more the witnesses and the actual legislators. But anyway, let's get to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. RJ, yeah, that's the point here. The point is to damage Trump and ruin his chances to run again. Pretty transparently. Like, that's not even a hidden agenda here. They may not have said it out loud, but it's very clearly, I mean, any casual observer who has any kind of basic knowledge of what is happening and the circumstances surrounding this, like if you're, out from under that very soundproof rock that I think some live under and no idea what's going on, sure, this may just seem wow, but seriously, like, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Thank you for summing it up. Anyway, let's go to those phone lines. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us right now here. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
I can't get over what you just said. I heard you when you made a comment about, well, you're pretty much negative on this or whatever specifically you said. I can't remember the how that phrase out. But I want to tell you something. There was this great movie back called Kelly's Heroes, right? And they had Oddball would tell his guy, always with the negative vibes, Moriarty, always with the negative vibes. You can't be negative. You got to be always positive. That's what I'm saying. Now, let me get, last night was absolutely gorgeous. I went through 2 boxes of popcorn watching this wonderful display of horridness by these awful, led by this nut job, this orange orangutan, funny-looking thing on his head. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. He is in deep, deep doo-doo. Now, you keep saying there's nothing going to happen. You're probably very right. We have never, in this entire existence of this great nation, have ever put a president or an ex-president in prison. However, I am hoping we're going to break that mold and stick this moron into Gitmo or Guyana or some other horrible place. That's what I want to say.
I mean, of course, you're entitled to your opinion on that. I would be very surprised and honestly mildly concerned if that were to happen, because, again, the prosecution of political rivals in or out of office, frankly, is very much smacking of third world. And I know there's a lot of people who have probably considerations of kangaroo courts or something that keep coming up here and accusations of such with this. But again, that's a misunderstanding of the very circumstances we're talking about here. It's literally not a court. And I don't mean that to be like edgy. I'm taking a hot take. By its very definition, it is not a court. It is a set of hearings that is controlled by the majority of Congress, meaning that the party in power is the one deciding how these actions go forth. So it shouldn't be any surprise that the way it's being presented and also the way the committee went about having its different involvement or not, none of this surprises me. And sure, maybe some of the things being said there should probably be important and should be focused on. But the fact of the matter is that way too often are we looking at particularly when it comes to our national politics, sub-style over substance. Essentially, substance is forgotten as long as it looks good, sounds good, plays well on TV. That has been transparently the focus of all of this. And sure, there may or may not be, probably edging towards may, but I honestly have an expectation that this may end up, to put it in comparison with another set of things, the lead up to the 2016 election, when there were certain things about investigations coming and going. I expected to kind of fare maybe the same way, that way of kind of evaporating if anything actually does come down.
Well, let me take umbrage on a particular point you just made about the fact that the opposite political party in power is got an advantage to go beat up on the current party in. Okay, I mean, we're playing politics here, but that's Mickey Mouse. In my estimation, that's Mickey Mouse. Because we're talking serious stuff here, Andrew, and everybody else out there in the Southport Frederick. You have, by all stretches of any normal sense of understanding, this moron jerk was attempting a coup of our great democracy. There is no substitution, no other excuse that can be made for it, Andrew. So I take umbrage with that particular point you made. That's what I want to say.
I mean, the beating up of it is kind of happening. Okay, let's put it in other terms here then. We often focus on policy on this program because cutting through the rhetoric and getting to what are you actually going to do, kind of important to me, and I think should be more important. It's important to some out there, should be important to more, is what I continue to argue. Policy coming out of this. What is actually going to happen and what is going to go into place? I don't see much. Like, I'm willing to be proven wrong on this. I mean, time will tell. But honestly, just coming out of this, even precedent setting, I'm not sure there's gonna be much. Plain and simple.
Well, were you finished?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, this is not. Well, first off, let me say that we as humans should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So you talk about policy, you talk about politics, you talk about this, that, and everything. You know, we're not a singular focused type of species. We should be able to think multiple different methods. Okay, so everything you just said there. Okay, you know, for the most part, you're the greatest. I mean, radio guy I've ever listened to it, including that rash moron. You're better than anybody. But I got to tell you, there's got to be something to be done about this, because we cannot continue with this kind of disconnect relative to our politics, our social structure, and everything else under the sun. We will flat kill ourselves. No question about it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's okay. If you want to get more specific, okay, out of these specific hearings, again, I'm dubious about much actual results, action anyway, changes to the longer extent. One of the biggest things that came out of particularly the opposition to the Trump administration was not necessarily that, even that what things were doing that were being decried by the opposite party were not technically allowable. The office of the president has often been given broad authority in many ways that a lot of the technical aspects have never even been explored, even in the long history, the 200 plus years of this country as it exists now. I mean, some of these powers, of course, haven't existed even that long. So if you want to be really down to brass tacks about what might come out of this, I think it might be, well, the power of the presidency, the executive branch, has seen pretty broad expansion of powers, particularly over the last week, my lifetime. Let's just call it that, because, I mean, particularly September 11th, 2001, the global war on terror era certainly saw a lot more focus on it, but it's been going on for quite a long time as it is. So if I was to look at anything that really might be long-term impacts, of course, it'll take legislation to then support this and actually make it happen, might be reining in of some of the powers of the presidency, though that will be probably a very long time change if it happens.
All right. Let me just say, our founding fathers has been written 14 different ways to Sunday, expected under our form of government, under our form of governance by the people, for the people, of the people, blah, 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 right? They expected elected officials to operate honorably. Back in the day, I don't know, everybody was more honorable than they are with these slime balls that we've got today that are involved. I mean, I'm not talking just Republicans and Democrats. Any one of these slime balls out there are in it for their own selves. They don't care about the United States. The whole spectrum of our founding fathers thinking that, hey, when you're going to represent the people, you're going to be an honorable person. And that's where the thing is falling apart. Now, have a wonderful weekend. I hate Fridays. I love Fridays because I got to wait the whole blasted weekend before you come back on. But you have a good weekend.
You too as well. Thank you for the point in the call. Appreciate it.
Okay, Andrew. Bye.
All right. We got to take that next break right now. I know we got more people on the line. And if you're there, stay there. And if you want to get on the line, that number to call again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in. We'll delve more into those. I know we're in a call and we're neglecting them. We'll get back to that. And more of the calls, again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The family of a man who was shot and killed by a Texas state trooper in Horizon City is now suing the Texas Department of Public Safety, claiming the shooting was not justified. The family of 21-year-old Jesse Carranza announced the lawsuit yesterday. Carranza was shot at a gas station on the corner of Peyton Road and Eastlake Boulevard in July of last year. Carranza's family and their lawyers say that he was unarmed and backing away from the trooper when he was shot. A Las Cruces woman accused of embezzling more than $1 million from her employer was sentenced to 4 years in prison on Friday for wire fraud and false and fraudulent tax returns. According to the plea agreement and other court records, 44-year-old Sandra Roberto started working at Mesilla Valley Transportation in 2009 as a fuel clerk and later in the accounting office. Starting in 2011 and continuing through 2018, Roberto embezzled approximately $1.1 million from the company. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
2 crashes on the I-10 westbound is slowing down your El Paso freeways this afternoon. I-10 westbound at McRae, multiple vehicles involved in that crash. The express lane and exit ramp both blocked. I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. El Paso police are tweeting 2 left lanes are blocked there. Minor backup. In the Lower Valley, Loop 375 southbound Pan American, the exit is blocked and the right lane. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've made it to the weekend, and it looks like we can now finally say we're taking a turn in our weather pattern, and that basically means we should start to slowly cool down, but next week we'll see temperatures back in the 90s. Our rain chances also have returned to finally give us a little break from this heat. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Audible. This summer, fire up your imagination with Audible. Listen to comedies, thrillers, mysteries, and more. It's everything you want in audio entertainment, all in the Audible app. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com.
The job market is competitive right now, so you need to be competitive to attract top talent. If you're trying to fill open positions at your business, iHeartMedia is here to help. Use radio and digital targeting to find fresh, passive candidates currently in the workforce. These candidates are listening right now, looking for new opportunities. Together, we can let the community know you're hiring. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
You know about our great deals on windows and doors. And now the Window Depot has everything for your complete home remodel. The Window Depot is a one-stop warehouse with the lowest prices and biggest inventory on in-stock butcher block, granite and quartz countertops, plus flooring and tile to finish your project. We also offer a huge selection of in-stock cabinets, or our designers can special order your cabinetry in a variety of colors and styles. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but we also offer online ordering and no contact delivery. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
You may know that the Star-Spangled Banner was written during the Battle of Baltimore, but did you know that it wasn't adopted until 1931 and was written by a tone-deaf lawyer? Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. Comments, even as I'm just saying that, coming in on all those platforms here. So, I mean, this is the day when we take on as many of those as we can, because, I mean, there's already been we'll get to what we can. Cramming what we do each and every weekday, 2 hours is often not enough, but we'll keep working on it anyway. Also got those phone lines open full up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Jacob Zune on the whole January. I knew it was going to be today. I knew that within the last hearing that it was going to be today. I was saying it ahead of the show, even if just muttering to myself, but not surprised. Jacob Zune making the comment, were there any cables, texts, emails, phone calls, or other communication between Trump and any of these groups conspiring to overthrow the government? No, there was no coup attempt. I mean, I think that's been one of the, all the talk, what's the so popular phrase? The smoking gun seems to be, damning evidence, maybe, depending on your political persuasion more than anything within these hearings, but actual, again, criminally motivatable, that's, well, until it happens, I'm going to be a little bit dubious about it. It's been so much sound and fury so far, but if it actually signifies anything is a little bit of a question to be had here. And always we have our checking in on the prices of thing. Kathy Coder letting us know real butter jumping to $6.98 per pound. I've been telling you all for a minute now, if you need it, you want to make sure you have it. I don't think shelves will be going totally bare, at least not in the short term, maybe, or at least in the long term. In the short term, it might. But just if you need it and you know you're going to need it, make sure you keep it on hand is what I'm saying there. One other thing, John Brownston responding to Frankie, they're saying 90% of the January 6th congressional hearings has been hearsay, not admissible in court. And that's, again, one of the finer points to be made here is that I'm not sure a criminal nature will come out of it. Among other things, yeah, a criminal investigation would have happened probably first. But Ted Kors also bringing up, can we talk about the influence peddling going on now with the current administration? To a certain extent, it always happens. Look at pardon season. That happens at the end of just about any administration. But I guess there's a part of it to be brought up there, certainly. And some other comments, Maria Coleman, Kathy Cordry, James Ratcliffe, Louis Pinato, and more. And also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Robert Haynes, Ted Kors, Joey Carlson, Ida Beza Gardner, Monica Cervantes, Marky Mandingo, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, and Michael Robert Tipton. I think we're actually missing one there because there's too many coming in right now. We appreciate all of it. So if you want to make sure we see it, again, leave your comments over that. Let's go back to those phone lines here again real quick. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Matthew in the Northeast on the line with us right now. Matthew, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so I'm an independent. I used to think the Democratic Party was the best party here in El Paso, but not anymore. I think they're among the most corrupt. But one thing for sure, I know we had two district attorneys where with Simmons and Esparza where the courts, not the courts, what is it? Where they made some wrongful accusations and people were wrongfully incarcerated, and it found out when the investigations came out through the state had to shell out money, millions of dollars, for those people wrongfully incarcerated for murder, for rape, for armed robbery, you name it all. But I think the last DA and also Simmons should have been tried, because and also the police chiefs that they had, because that's not right. I don't think the police here are angels. I have no respect for them. What they've done to some people, wrongfully accuse them, and sometimes the state shells out millions of dollars for those years. Those people were wrongfully incarcerated. That's not right. And those two DAs we had were Democrats. And the thing about it is that I'm a good friend of Teresa Caballero, and I think she would have made a better DA than Esparza because she had more experiences and she was a very intelligent attorney, a criminal attorney. But that's all I have to say is that, I have no respect for these pigs out there, the police. I've seen where they try to harass people for no reason. Yeah, and have a good day, and have a good day, okay? That just, like I said, I used to be a staunch Democrat, not anymore. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the point in the call there. I mean, making sure people are doing what they're correctly supposed to in office, to whom much is given, much shall be expected, whether it comes to the blessings, something from the purpose of the original quote, or be it what is actually going to be given to them in terms of power over their fellow man. So do agree that police should be held to a very high standard, though I don't think I'm going to follow your total line of logic there about them all being pigs, among other things. There's a reason I have not applied myself to be a police officer, even though I would like to, see some, particularly the shoot, not shoot training, go through that myself to really see what it takes to do it. Because, it's very difficult. I have no illusions about that. But, this is why, let's just say economic incentives do come into place whenever things are going wrong and in law enforcement and consistently wrong. Well, that's the kind of situation where, because of the payouts that do come out of our pocketbook, of course, the taxpayer coffers, ends up making it where, if you keep having the bad people in those positions, it keeps costing more and doing more. So, I'm not going to say that I think it's a good thing that we have these lawsuits, but I think that the lawsuits serve a good purpose to hopefully get that over and done with. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for the point in the call, even if there were some interesting points there. At least one more call here before we hit that next break. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, I remember when the Republicans impeached Bill Clinton over lying about a consensual sexual affair in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I happen to think that an attempted failed coup on Congress is a lot bigger deal than lying about a consensual sexual affair in the White House. Now, while we all know this isn't a trial, you've said that over and over and over again. Everybody knows that. There's nothing new. That's boilerplate now. That this is for the sake of history, for the American people, and it's a search for the truth, the documents, the evidence, the witnesses to what Trump did, which I saw. I knew this a long time ago when I saw his speech at the Ellipse, what was up. Okay? But now they've gotten this down to great detail to include over 1,000 former White House staffers. These people were Trumpers, man. Some of them they're shattered now because they were all in on the Trump, and now they find out what a lot of discerning, sentient people figured out a long, long time ago, that this guy was a con man and dangerous, okay? Capable of doing anything for power. So what this is all for is to lay that record down and to pass this information on to the Department of Justice, who will then decide whether they will open an investigation on Trump or not. Now, I happen to think that there's a very high probability that is going to happen. In fact, I'll bet you, Andrew, a lunch there at your favorite Mexican restaurant, that an investigation is open on Donald Trump and his attempted coup.
Again, I will be very surprised if this ends up being something that gets recommended. Among other things, usually if there is going to be an investigation, it happens ahead of public hearings on it. All of this information would have been getting gathered beforehand. So if there's recommendations, okay, let's just get down to brass tacks with this here for a minute then. If we truly expect that this is something that will then move forward to it, what exact charges are we going to go under? If we're talking about dereliction of duty or violation of oath of office, is a phrase often getting talked about in these hearings, that is something that sure would be considered impeachable, and is also notable that he was impeached over this, even if then the political realities, because impeachment as well, not a judicial proceeding, it is a political one. And again, I'm not even saying that to be edgy, to say like, oh yeah, prove me wrong. Like that's just literally how it works. It's how it's formulated. And so the political realities of the day influence how a political process can go through. It is determined by those politicians sitting in the office. So literally, besides that, what other actual charges do you think could be done here? Legitimately.
Well, obviously, I'm not an attorney, but I'll tell you what, there's some really, really smart attorneys on this committee, like Congressman Jamie Raskin, constitutional law professor, graduated at the top of his class from Harvard Law, or Liz Cheney, who has a law degree from University of Chicago, or that Laughlin, Congressman Laughlin, who sat on the Watergate committees. So I know that they have a good long list of charges that they think they can bring against a president, and a whole bunch of evidence, witnesses, documents that I've seen, that the American people who want to take the time to see it instead of having their heads in the sand or over there where it doesn't shine in Trump's world, and the world has seen it. So if you don't want to buy it, that's fine, Andrew. And if your listeners don't want to buy it, but I've seen it, and I've seen what he done. And I think they got people there. Like I say, I've seen their witnesses. This is devastating and damning to him, and they're making a hell of a case.
So, tell you what, I disagree with you on the final point there on the idea of the hell of a case, but on the previous point, devastating and damning, I think that is the entire purpose of what these committee hearings were intending to do. Whether or not you actually believe it did or not, that's more of a personal preference kind of thing, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of disagreement on those particular points, as we always do. But seriously, I think that's pretty transparently was the purpose of these hearings. It was to put this out there in the public consciousness, those that were willing to watch, listen, and take in what was there, or even just, again, I see a lot of similarity between what the, again, pretty transparent point was of like the Benghazi hearings. Very different circumstances. Do not mistake me on that point. I know I can hear someone shouting at the radio already through the phone here, but seriously, like that was the purpose here, and which is why if there is anything further coming from this, I'm going to be a little bit surprised, even if, again, not necessarily anything during the actual hearings has particularly surprised me. So thanks for the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, squeezing what we can before the top of the hour. So if you want to get on the line, again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Free for all Friday. You know we're doing it, and we'll keep it up here. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at McRae Boulevard. An earlier crash is still blocking the exit ramp and the right lane. Multiple vehicles involved there with delays. I-10 westbound at Airway. Police are at the scene now of a crash. I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. That incident is cleared. All lanes are back open. And in the lower valley on Memorial Highway, southbound just south of Pan American Drive, all lanes are back open there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense. and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them. So you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
All these moves by the Federal Reserve have caused the great unwind, and I want to make sure you don't get caught in the crosshairs. I'm Mark Moss, each week discussing the decentralized revolution. So join the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
M1EP.com, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We've covered a lot of ground already here this hour, and we'll keep doing it. Oh, we already got to take that next hour break here. I know we've gone a little bit long with some of these segments here, so if you're on the line, stay there. If you want to get on the line, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in. Ted Core is encapsulating it pretty well here. They are trying to prevent Trump from being able to run again. That has been their purpose since he came down the escalator. Is it wrong that I'd almost begrudgingly admire someone more who would just come out and say that flat out? Because couching it in the flower, I mean, the reason that we have that whole joke, how do you know a politician is lying, their lips are moving, is because an older phrase, forked tongue, speaking out both sides of their mouth. I mean, someone who's just saying, like, yeah, we don't want him to run anymore. Like, honestly, just say that. Anyway, I doubt we'll get that kind of clarity here, but we got to take that break at the top of the hour news break. So again, if you want to call in, squeeze in, line's full up at the moment, but if you want to get on a little bit later, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after the break at the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at McRae Boulevard. An earlier crash is still blocking the exit ramp and the right lane. Multiple vehicles involved there with delays. I-10 westbound at Airway. Police are at the scene now of a crash. I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. That incident is cleared. All lanes are back open. And in the lower valley on Memorial Highway, southbound just south of Pan American Drive, all lanes are back open there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso. Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy. And our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus CTNL. 0 APR is $1,667 and 2.9% APR is $1,515 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT, and TRX models.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook.
President Biden is continuing to work in isolation after he tested positive for COVID this week. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
As we know, COVID is not unusual, right? This is something that we were preparing for. There is treatment.
She said the president is being treated with the antiviral drug Paxlovid. White House COVID response leader Dr. Ashish Jha said the president ate his breakfast and lunch today. ICE is now ramping up deportations again as a Biden administration policy awaits a Supreme Court decision. The San Diego Union Tribune reports that ICE is no longer prioritizing the deportation of immigrants with a criminal history and is now arresting immigrants at their scheduled check-ins. This comes after a federal judge in Texas ordered a nationwide halt to the guidance, which was issued by Homeland Security in September of 2021. A sentencing date has been set in the federal trial of two former Minneapolis cops who were convicted of violating George Floyd's civil rights. J. Alexander Kong and Tu Tao are both scheduled for sentencing the morning of Wednesday, July 27th. Embattled Uvalde, Texas School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo will get to keep his job for a little bit longer. Lisa Taylor reports.
There was a school board meeting set for this weekend, which included a vote on his termination. That meeting has now been canceled. The district cited due process requirements. The original agenda suggested the school superintendent was ready to fire the chief, who was in charge during the school shooting. Arredondo told the House committee earlier this summer he saw spent shell casings on the ground when he arrived, but believed the shooting had become a barricaded person case, not an active shooter. I'm Lisa Taylor.
3 media outlets are projecting Wes Moore as the winner of the Democratic nomination for Maryland governor. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A Republican senator is taking Georgia's Fulton County DA to court over the state's election probe. Liz Kennedy has more.
State Senator Burt Jones, who is also running for lieutenant governor, says District Attorney Fonnie Willis and her deputy should be disqualified from advising a special grand jury in the 2020 presidential election investigation. The AJC reports Jones served as an alternate presidential elector for Donald Trump in December 2020. But he argues that it's unfair that the DA is looking into his actions in the case, given that her office donated to his Democratic opponent. The district attorney claims she has done nothing wrong.
Experts say Florida's amusement park safety proposal doesn't go far enough. The framework came out earlier this week to prevent future ride-related tragedies like the incident earlier this year when 14-year-old Tyree Sampson fell to his death. The draft legislation would require ride operator training, create random inspections, and require more signage. South Carolina families with students heading to school next month need to make sure their kids are correctly vaccinated. Sarah Bartlett has the details.
The State Department of Health has updated its yearly requirements for vaccines. Updates include an additional dose of the chickenpox vaccine for 8th graders, 3 doses of the polio vaccine for 10th graders, and 2 doses of the hepatitis A vaccine for 2nd grade students. A COVID-19 vaccine is not required, but the health department recommends everyone 5 years old and older receive the coronavirus vaccine.
Almost 900 job cuts are coming to 7-Eleven. The North Texas-based convenience store chain says the corporate cuts are happening as it finishes its takeover of the Speedway chain. They'll mostly be in Irving and Ohio, where Speedway is based. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Check. That's check. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org. forest.org.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
Sup?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. A lot of different conversations going on those. Seriously, if you haven't delved into, we got the facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Twitter @Talk El Paso, twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, or the YouTube channel, Talk El Paso. A lot of different comments come on here. A lot of different points come on here. We have some conversation about where to get the better groceries in town. Kathy Codry mentioning about how the thunderstorm this morning we lost power for 6 hours. That's pretty, that's part of the reason we've been mentioning about the power conservation. More about this point in the afternoon for the non-natural causes. Is that a way to put it for when we're talking about electricity generation? Anyway, if you're going to conserve power, consider doing it now during the day, or at least shifting it. But then also talking about the merits of impeachment or not. John Browsden telling me about how he went through weapon computer training in U.S. Customs basic course. On-screen scenarios are complex and set up for novice shooter to make mistakes. Then you're asked why you made such a stupid mistake. See, I would like to do that. I know I'm weird in a lot of ways, but I would like to go through that and get that perspective on what it actually takes here, along with many other comments. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in on all of these things. Again, we got Kathy Codry, RJ, Calvin Williams, John Browsleton has mentioned there, Ted Kors also dropping those likes and reacts. We appreciate Michael Robert Tipton, Robert Haynes, Joey Carlson, Ida Beza Gardner, Monica Cervantes, Marky Mandingo, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and more. Just a lot going on. The Skeptic Squad is out in force today, as it always is on Fridays, over on the social media, and the Thunderdome of comments is more than a little bit in place here already, with Calvin Williams putting through a fantasy scenario of what the vote will be about hitting Trump from the January 6th committee. Again, that would be the quiet part that they're not going to say out loud, and vice versa. But also a lot of calls coming in. Again, if you want to squeeze in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Let's go back to the calls here right now. We do have Barbara on the west side with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. I just want to make a few comments. I'll try and be short. First, on the Supreme Court decision on the ICE not being able to prioritize deportations, the Biden administration did ask for an expedited hearing, and the Supreme Court said, no, we'll see you in December.
Yeah, there you go.
So they've got 5 months to continue, and I understand that they've already started, but I don't believe anything the Biden administration says because they don't abide by any court orders. They're on their own. And then regarding the January 6th hearings, Eric Holder was held in contempt of court, and nothing happened to him. But Bannon was also found in contempt of court, and they found him guilty in contempt of court, and now he's subject to from 3 days to a year in prison. Go figure. It's right. It's who's in party and how they interpret the law and who they're going to protect, and that's how it's going to be. The law is 2 tiers, and we don't have justice. And then Raul was saying, of course, called in and he was talking about Raskin, and Raskin was on both, I think, one of the impeachments, or both impeachments of the president. And the difference between the impeachment and the January 6th hearings is the impeachment had both parties in it, in Congress and in the Senate. They each defended, somebody presented a point, and then you had the defense, which is what you don't have here. And then he says, wow, 1,000 witnesses went in and they just testified and something's going to happen. Well, they have 1,000 witnesses, and I still haven't heard any evidence that the president controlled the scene, led the riot, colluded, that he planned it, or made phone calls or sent text messages relating to a coup at the Capitol. There isn't anything that I've heard that would point to the president having abdicated his responsibility to protect us or our Constitution. So this hype about, there's so much evidence there against the president is not so. The FBI before these hearings said there was nothing there. And now they've put their hopes in, Merrick Garland coming up with something. I don't understand where you can say there's so much, he's guilty, he's impeachable, and there's nothing there to prove it. But the reason I was also calling, my final point here, is O'Rourke's donations. They talk about $27.6 million. Well, 3 individuals each donated $1 million. One of those individuals is George Soros. I'm sure everybody's heard of George Soros, who he is and what he does. He's a far left progressive, and he believes that the U.S. should acquiesce to the global rules. In other words, we are not a country of ourselves. Now we're subject to global rules. He believes in open borders. He doesn't believe in jail sentences, in tough laws. And we've seen what's happened in San Francisco. Bodine just got recalled. In L.A., Gascon, the county clerk, is checking all the signatures on the petition she's received to put him on a recall in November. And we saw what's happening with Bragg in New York. And these are all DAs. And this is what this man does. He goes, he puts his money on far-left progressives, and then they proceed to ruin a city. We saw what's happening in Austin, and that's Texas. They released hundreds of inmates from jail during COVID, and only 5 of them had it. And then he released someone who went on and committed 10 armed robberies after he was released. So we need to be careful, and it's a good thing that it's on his filings that Soros contributed to his campaign. And Soros originally started trying to make change through the legislatures, and this is what I've read. And when that failed, he decided to go after DAs in the cities, in progressive cities, in left-leaning cities. And that's what he does. And now he wants to get a foothold on a governor. And here he is, he's for open borders, and we've all heard O'Rourke say, we stand for America and we don't stand for walls. Well, that's what has saved our country, the walls that we have out there. So I caution everybody, and I encourage everybody to read about this man, to get the background on O'Rourke, because he's not innocent either. There's just so many things that we need to think about. And then when you go vote in November, seriously think about what you want our country to be, where you want us to go, where you want our local leaders to take us. Do we want Escobar to continue to open borders? And like I said the other day, 1/3 of the unaccompanied minor children are lost in the system. Is that what we want? Is that humane? Because they keep saying we need to treat these people humanely. Well, humane is letting them know that there are lots of problems with them getting here, and being forceful when they make the statement, don't come to America. Who's going to listen to that passive, don't come to America?
Given the active marketing that is going on the behalf of the cartels, because sure, I mean, that may be the truth of it, don't come, but there are plenty others that want to get that 10 grand plus out of each and every. I'm sure that price has gone up, by the way. I know that was always a guesstimation, But I have no doubt that being like, oh, what's more difficult now? So actually that means that you got to pay us more and we'll definitely get you through. I mean, there's a marketing arm going on here, but to your point about going to the ballot box and making the decision on how to vote, I would hope that everyone considers the big issues, the big questions. I mean, I know it may seem at various points overwhelming. I mean, we talk about so many different issues just on this program that I wouldn't be surprised if someone could be left feeling like their head is spinning when we're talking about all these many different things. But yeah, going out and making sure you actually are what you want to see. Again, to quote the late, great Casey Kasem, if you think things could be better, make sure you're registered to vote right now. And I need to have that just on repeat playing everywhere I go. It'd be my theme music if I could, because seriously, if people aren't thinking about that way and what they can do with it, they are messing up to begin with here. So I'll tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. So thank you for the point in the call. Just one last comment I want to get to here. I think Raul betting me lunch on whether the Department of Justice opens up an investigation of Trump on the January 6th events or not, him calling it a coup or not. I'm not willing to bet whether there will be actually an investigation opened. What I will bet you on is any actual prosecution coming out of it. That would be something I'd be willing to bet a lunch on here anyway. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, so again, appreciate the point in the call. Coming out of the break, we will get to more of those calls, more of those comments, more of everything that we do as we get into the second hour of the program here today on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call if you want to get on the line, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Well, there's been 4 crashes on the I-10 west and eastbound over the last couple of hours. I-10 westbound at McRae is one of the latest, blocking the express lane and the exit ramp, causing delays. I-10 westbound at Airway, police on the scene of a crash there. I-10 westbound is slow from Lee Trevino to Trowbridge with 7-minute delays. And on Wrestler, northbound at Trade Center, just below Trans Mountain, an accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Find yourself going through life ignoring the totals on your receipts? Oh, I can't bring myself to look. We've got your shot at $1,000 with Inflation Vacation. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Some banks can make it complicated to redeem credit card rewards. But with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention. Like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over here on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either at Talk El Paso, Andrew J. Polk on any of those platforms here. So if you want to chime in over there, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and we'll keep getting to it as we do here. But also, a lot of calls coming in. That's the focus of today. Free for All Friday is what we call this most important day of the week, to us anyway, as we are making sure that we're doing the pressure relief valve thing, and a lot of pressure been building up here. Apparently, apparently I'm on for a lunch bet here on if there will be any actual prosecution from the DOJ onto the former president here. We'll see how that works out. In any case, if you want to get on the line, they're full up at the moment. Often are on Fridays, but you can squeeze in. Here's a hint. Do it at the end of a previous call. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Sorry if I just blew up anyone's special secret on how they get through on the line, but we do the best we can here. So let's get back to those phone lines right now. We do have Marco over in Central on the line with us right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Oh, man, there's a lot. So,
fair enough.
You know what? I always find it funny how Raul states that he makes it seem like, oh, this is the worst. No. You know. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's you doing all right?
Yeah, no, it's because somebody was trying to do something they shouldn't do.
Fair enough.
Okay. No, so back to my point. So Raul was making a point about January 6th, and so he tries to embody it in a way that's like if something's going to happen. And so honestly, I'm with you. I don't think anything's going to happen at all. The reason I don't believe anything's going to happen is for one reason and one reason alone. If, let's say they do go to court, okay, let's say they could try to convict Trump, that's not going to go over well. I mean, just the political ramifications on that, like, oh man, I don't even want to think what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
It would be insane. It would be insane. The country's already on edge. Let's say there's let's go by the numbers here real quick. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
So when Bill Clinton lost the Congress to Newt Gingrich,
mm-hmm.
his approval rating, if I'm not mistaken, was about 45%. So he lost about 50 seats.
Okay.
The same with George W. He was in the 40s, and he actually managed to hold seats. He didn't lose the Congress, which was amazing. But also he was a wartime president. So a lot of the people were just comfortable with the status quo at that time. Then you go to Barack Obama, right? And then he was at 45%, and he lost about 40 seats. No, 65 seats is what I think he lost.
Oh, yeah, that Tea Party wave was pretty significant, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So then he lost about 65 seats. And so, you know, Trump was in the 30s, and he lost 40 seats. So I'm like, Biden is going to be at the lowest approval rating for any president in history in the midterm. And so they're saying, like, this is why I believe there's not going to be a red wave. It's going to be apocalypse. I don't know where Raul thinks that, oh, let's go indict the president on what? On his First Amendment ability to speak? So what? The president didn't believe that he lost. Who cares? Like, and I know I blow it off like that, but let's be honest, okay? You're the president. You see that you have a lead. You go to bed, you wake up, your lead is coming down. And this is why I don't put the blame entirely on like the system, even though there was a lot of mail-in ballots, but the rules were changed. Even Bill Barr, a year before anything happened, told Trump, hey, you need to get serious and start challenging these cases in these states because you're gonna lose. And Trump, being Trump, was like, no, they're not gonna vote against me. He didn't realize that the hatred for him was massive. Okay, I think that's gonna change now, because I think you can hate somebody a lot, but if you're suffering and you have less of than before, it's easy to hate somebody when they're giving you everything, right? So the times are good, gas is cheap. It's easy to hate Trump. Let's hate the guy. He's an orange dude, whatever. He's dumb. He tweets mean things. But now that people are suffering, I want to see exactly like, okay, now gas is high. There's going to be food shortages because in November, I think I spoke to you about that. Diesel in the world is about to be tapped. Like, I know people think, oh, Saudi Arabia can just start. No, the world is at its maximum because, number one, the two highest producers of oil in the world aren't producing enough oil, which is America and Venezuela, because of the conditions that are happening there and certain sanctions that we've put that don't allow them to make more oil for the world. So in November, there's going to be a massive shortage of diesel. When that happens, I don't believe people are going to vote against their interests. They're going to vote for a person that stands against everything that's hurting them. Secondly, and I'll make this a last point, and let somebody else get on real quick. Their push is going to be in this last segment, okay? And I just want to make it clear to Raul. There's no way that Merrick Garland will bring charges. You know why? Because he knows one thing is true. Nobody is going to change that Supreme Court. I know they're making a stink. They're saying no. Manchin and Sinema already said that's a no-go for them. So I don't know what Raul's thinking that, and here's the Hail Mary. It's going to, no, that's not going to happen. If, let's say, by chance, Sinema and Manchin do it, at that point, you might as well live in a banana republic. Then let's just be honest. Let's say they say, let's do it. Then the next obvious point is, then what's it really matter? If the Democrats are determined to destroy your country, because they're the only ones. Look, AOC said we should put Republicans in concentration camps and re-educate them. There's only one party in this country that hates you, that hates me, that hates gas, that hates everything that's Americana, and that's the Democrat Party. That's why people I don't think they grasp how hated they are. And so the only thing they're grasping on now is, let's convict Trump and expand the court. Well, at that point, if you do that, then you reap what you sow. And I'm not hoping for political assassinations, but if you're going to put people on the fence like that, then people are going to do what they have to do. Now, I don't suggest on that, but we already have people that are on the fence doing stupid things for little things. Look at Lee Zeldin today. He's attacked. I mean, look at Rand Paul. He got attacked. Look at what happened to all the... it just seems like it's one side really doing the damage to America. And so, Raul, I'm sorry you feel that Trump destroyed America or is going to commit the coup or whatever. The only coup that I'm interested in is the coup that's going to happen in 2024 when Trump comes back and everybody says, dude, the biggest mistake was electing Skeletor.
I mean, I think that's, the current party in power is going to reap what they sow when it comes to this midterm election, because unfortunately people tend to vote what makes them upset more than what they like. I'm not saying that everyone does that, but it's in politics anyway. Hate seems to be a more powerful emotion. Oh, I hate this, I got to fix that. Oh, I hate that. So I love that. People who are happy don't vote, or at least it's a general rule. It shouldn't be that way, but let's be honest. If you think things are fine, thinks they're okay, I don't need to bother, everything's going fine, people then don't tend to go out. It's a foible in the human psyche, at least in the consciousness of voters in this country. Let me just say this on the January 6th committee. I think there were two pretty big tactical errors either happening or ongoing with it. One was largely House Republicans excluding themselves from it, not being a part of it, because sure, in other hearings, there have been other bits of input, other questioning, and so a lack therein was essentially, well, that's what the majority party wanted, was this platform, and they've been able to set the whole docket, everything, without even a dissenting voice. So I think that was a tactical error. But I think the other ongoing tactical error may be more along this lines, that if this is the sum total of the things being put forth for either 2022, here, end of this year, the November elections, or for next year, 2024, actually, I should say, if this is essentially the sum total of those hopes of how to deal with those elections, again, see my previous point about people tend to go out and deal with what they don't like more in the polls than what they do. And sure, it's the economy stupid is still a very persuasive phrase for me. I don't know if that's going to be necessarily enough here in this case, but only time will tell there. And yeah, as always, I am going to find myself immediately opposed to anyone who initiates violence at any of these things. Anyone who is of the opinion that there is no political solution is someone that I'm done talking with. And you all know how much I love to talk and discuss things, because if you're seriously saying that that the force of arms is the only way you're going to get what you want, then you're going to find me opposing you very quickly here. Anyway, let's get back to at least, let's squeeze in one more. We do appreciate the point in the call. Let's get to at least one more here before we hit that next break. We do have Andrew on the west side with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. First topic, Andrew. Immigrants being bused to different cities.
Mm-hmm. Yep, as is happening from Texas here, so currently.
Yes, in particular, the mayor of D.C. and the mayor of New York are complaining about their shelters getting full. Well, wasn't it these progressives that said we welcome immigrants from everywhere?
Yeah, and if you, I guess, technically you look at, the name on the description on the Statue of Liberty, though I think there maybe is some technical points and, unhappiness being made on that specifically.
Well, like you said, you reap what you sow.
Yep, that's true.
Number two, if these Democrats were really sincere about the rule of law, they would have left this investigation to the Attorney General. I mean, the Attorney General could appoint a special prosecutor and look into it and call witnesses and even see if there's any exculpatory evidence. Yes, sir. In other words, no due process. And that's a point I wanted to make to Frankie and Comrade Raul. But the first day of these hearings, and I picked up on this right away, Liz Cheney said that there was credible information, credible intel that there was a riot ensuing. Okay, then why is it that National Guard troops were declined? And Pelosi declined them. Now, she doesn't have the authority to call up the National Guard. Being responsible for the security of the Congress, she can request National Guard troops from the Department of Defense. Yes. And then my last point is this, to Comrade Raul, who likes to talk about plutocrats. Well, George Soros, being a multi-billionaire, he's the biggest plutocrat that has a lot of influence over local elections, national elections. This guy can even he's got enough money to overturn a small banana republic or even something bigger.
Yeah, the amount of money in politics. If I had a magic wand, I'd be swinging it a lot these days. But if I could wave it and make it so that things like Citizens United, the entire advent of super PACs, I don't think that's done anything good for our society, our country, our governance, and I don't think it's going to continue doing anything. I mean, sure, it's one thing to say, well, I like what this one is doing, but the sum total of dark money being funneled into politics, I mean, the fact that we have to call it dark money is enough of a phrase for me there.
Yes. Well, once again, I say that if these people were serious and concerned about justice being done, it should have been a referral should have been requested to the AG's office, and a special prosecutor being appointed. These people are upset because they beat the most smartest woman in the world for the seat in the White House, and they beat Hillary. He beat Hillary Clinton.
I mean, yeah, there's been, well, that whole election is a whole nother story here, and we've been very focused on 2016 or the aftermath of 2020 more specifically. But yeah, again, that's why I see some similarities in the way this is being handled to the way things were handled, well, leading up to 2016 in its own right.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Andrew, last point. If you're sure about making a bet and you're sure about your stance, if you win, ask to be taken to eat at Carlos and Mickey's. Great place.
Fair enough there. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
I turn the mic back to you.
All right. Have a great weekend there. All right. Tell you what, we need to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls on the line. We got more comments coming in. So if you want to get in on either, again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where you can find us in the live stream, as well as, you can get on that phone line. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. The family of a man who was shot and killed by a Texas state trooper in Horizon City is now suing the Texas Department of Public Safety, claiming the shooting was not justified. The family of 21-year-old Jesse Carranza announced the lawsuit yesterday. Carranza was shot at a gas station on the corner of Peyton Road and Eastlake Boulevard in July of last year. Carranza's family and their lawyers say that he was unarmed and backing away from the trooper when he was shot. A Las Cruces woman accused of embezzling more than $1 million from her employer was sentenced to 4 years in prison on Friday for wire fraud and false and fraudulent tax returns. According to the plea agreement and other court records, 44-year-old Sandra Roberto started working at Mesilla Valley Transportation in 2009 as a fuel clerk and later in the accounting office. Starting in 2011 and continuing through 2018, Roberto embezzled approximately $1.1 million from the company. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
At least 5 or 6 crashes on the 10 between the Patriot and the Loop this afternoon. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, the latest crash, slowing traffic back to Geronimo. I-10 westbound at Airway, police on scene of a crash there. I-10 westbound McRae, all lanes back open from an earlier crash, still a delay there. And Global Reach southbound at Montana Avenue, heavy congestion, stop and go traffic. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've made it to the weekend, and it looks like we can now finally say we're taking a turn in our weather pattern, and that basically means we should start to slowly cool down. But next week, we'll see temperatures back in the 90s. Our rain chances also have returned to finally give us a little break from this heat. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
The open road is the one place you need to be in control at all times, and Brake Masters takes that seriously. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
If summer is heating up your hiring needs, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job and get hiring today by visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We've been covering a lot of ground here today, as we do just about every Friday, particularly since, well, Free for All Friday is what we call it, meaning we're taking the comments and calls throughout both hours of the program here. So we've been definitely been doing that, including getting into some restaurant recommendations. RJ and Kathy Coterie talking about Carlos and Mickey's there. I guess it depends on which one you're talking about. Okay, this is not a sponsorship, so just give out. Hopefully I won't get in trouble here. But the one I'm thinking of is over on Magruder near, not exactly the airport, though you can get there pretty close from here, over near Bassett. But I guess technically that's Los Bandidos, they Carlos and Mickey. That's the one I think of anyway when you say Carlos and Mickey. So if you're looking for that one, but apparently there's one out on Montwood. I've never been to that one here, so I can't. Yeah, I know, surprising for me as well. Anyway, if you're really wanting to know about that, we don't exactly do restaurant recommendations on this show, but I guess Friday is what we do, so it's certainly on the table here. No pun intended. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines again. That number to call is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We have Jeff on the west side here with us right now. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, Andrew. Just figured I'd call in. I've been finding humor some of the commercials being ran lately. You know, you hear for forever, you've been hearing commercials about how, don't run your air conditioner real low because you got to save electricity. It's better to run a fan. Because that air circulation is a good thing. It's going to help you out and it'll cool the room pretty well along, in combination with your air conditioner. So run your fan. Well, lately I've been hearing commercials coming out saying don't even run your fan because it doesn't do any good to cool your room. You should only run it when you're there because it cools a person, not the room. Well, either way, it's one of those where you hear all this and it's all about trying to cut back because we're in an energy crisis and we're.
Tell you what, give me a favor here, Jeff. Get a little bit closer to the phone there if you're a little bit further away from it. I think we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh.
There, can you hear us now? Can you hear us now, Jeff?
Yeah, can you hear me?
It's a little bit better, I think.
Okay, hold on a sec here.
There we go.
Sorry.
Now we got you.
There we go. This should be better. Anyway, like I said, with the whole thing with the energy crisis, and they're telling you to run a fan, then they're telling you don't run a fan, and then don't run your air conditioner, and so on and so forth. But the whole time, they're trying to shove electric cars down our throats when the grid can't support electric cars. I mean, the grid can't even support your air conditioner. So what makes you think an electric car is going to be the way to go? I mean, they don't want to do anything to improve the grid other than add more solar panels. When if they truly want to run green energy, which here's a one that'll really flip out Raul, I'm sure, and that's probably about the only time you'll hear him, is you got to go nuclear. So, and as far as Raul goes, this is the only time you're going to ever hear me mention his name on this. He's the kind of narcissist that all he's doing is stirring the pot so everybody else will sit there and talk about him. So the best idea is to just ignore him and forget whatever he says and move on with additional points that actually make sense, not the garbage that he's spewing. So anyway, if you do that, maybe he'll learn that he doesn't need to try and to get his narcissistic high for the day someplace else. So anyway, that's it. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
No, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, have a good one there too. So let me say this on the grid issues, that essentially what is being talked about right now and the rest of Texas has been deep in the midst of here, and we're even starting to get to, as we've been setting some record usage numbers in our region. Essentially, it's the power being used all at once. So, I mean, yes, there are some things to be said about, use a fan if you're in a room instead of the air conditioner, and only use the fan when you're in a room, because, yeah, you're not circulating air, because circulating the air sure will get the cooler air moving around, but really it's to cool you as a person. I mean, there is a kernel there, but knowing what they're talking about, this is why I'm also very much in favor of there being transparency. Give out all the information, let people come to their own conclusions and decisions on it here, as opposed to saying, no, just trust us on this. Totally. You don't need to know anything else. We've just do what we've told you and it'll be fine. Because if they don't know the reasons behind it, well, that's when you get people doing things that don't actually work because they don't have the full picture here. I mean, we're right at large with either what's going on with air conditioning, electricity use, or like society and governance. It's amazing how these things collide here. But yes, there is a kernel there that if you're having a fan on you, it'll cool you. If it's a fan in an empty room, it's not really changing the temperature of the room. It's just making sure it's all the average temperature. So yes, there is a point to it, but the real thing they're getting at is shifting the most demand of the use. Because I don't care where you are, if all of the energy use in the entire day is being done within 1 hour, that system's blowing out. Maybe not guaranteed, but probably. I mean, that's the real issue here. I'm trying to not use another phrase, but flatten the curve is such a fraught phrase, but a similar kind of concept applies here. Not that people can't use power, but that it needs to happen at times, not all at once. Because the capacity is there, it just doesn't come all at once. So that's kind of part of the thing. Also, what would happen potentially if there were to be electric cars, because don't mistake me, I have a lot of issues and misgivings with that technology, but also another thing to consider is that electric cars, we often consider it as only taking the power from the grid to charge them up. But one of the major issues with the really wide deployment of, well, green energy or non-nuclear renewable energy, shall we call it more accurately, because, yeah, I kind of tongue-in-cheek refer to nuclear as green energy on its own. Aside from that, the real issue that's missing from there, from essentially the utility scale, is the battery backups. So let me put this idea to you, that if there were to be, say, again, magically, and all the other logistical problems gone, an electric car in every home, they could be both giving and taking from that battery, effectively making the cars and the batteries within them the battery backup for it to meet the actual consumption demand. Now, whether or not that'll actually then work out for like commuters is another question, but that's an entire possibility out there and being considered with it. Now, an incremental change over to it is probably going to be about the only way that it could possibly happen if there were to be more people doing electric cars. Again, there is an efficiency standpoint that, as opposed to us driving around gasoline and then having people drive to the gasoline and then use it to put the gasoline in their car so they can get more to the gasoline, you get what I'm saying here. There are certain inefficiencies in that system. So a central point of distribution makes a level of sense, but you are right that our grid is not set up for that right now. It's going to take time, effort, and a lot of investment to get there. So to say that we can just flip a switch overnight and get to it would not be, well, I'm saying, don't you have to charge the battery? Yes, you do. So if you're then finding out like, oh, sorry, there's really bad, I mean, imagine that this is going to be a potential excuse in the future if that were to happen. Sorry, boss, I couldn't make it today. There's a lot of energy demand overnight. My car couldn't charge. I just remember someone telling me, sorry, I can't read my book. I'm charging my cigarette, and also the future is stupid. I mean, there's a lot to be said out there. So, I mean, there's issues. There's a lot of issues, and to deal with them in order is about the only way through it. But also, I'm fully on board with you on the idea of nuclear energy. Sure, it's the mother of all NIMBY problems, not in my backyard, because as everyone keeps bringing up, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and sure, but also, as has also been mentioned, we are generations of technology removed from both of those incidents. And there are new constructions that can happen. So, seriously, if we want to talk about the increasing energy demand, because there's going to be increasing energy demand. If the population keeps increasing, if we keep wanting economic growth, we want growth to happen in general, there's going to be more demand for it. So you want to talk about the literal best bang per buck or per pound of fuel involved with it. Nuclear is the answer, but that's super not a conversation we seem willing to have in the general area. Anyway, I'm not aware, like, seriously, of anyone willing to, like, a politician to put that forth out there as of yet. We'll see what happens. Unfortunately, I don't think necessarily we're going to be really, if we wanted to be able to then address the demand, we need to be doing that now. So I'm a little bit concerned about if we'll be dollar day late and a dollar short on that. I think we can squeeze in one more call here before we hit that end of the hour until we got coming up for you. We do have Tony on the west side with you here right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'll try to make it fast. Barbara, I think she's a fine lady, but she seems to be like the grandmother who's taking a nap upstairs while the kids are having a party downstairs. She still doesn't seem to understand when she says things like the two-tiered level of system, the two-tiered justice, how the Democrats don't persecute their own and so forth. You have to understand, Barbara, and the rest of you, and I say this with respect, you still don't seem to understand who you're dealing with. See, these people, their number one priority is to stay in power. That includes breaking the rules, breaking the Constitution, two-tiered legal system, and lying and cheating. That's all justified, and they sleep very well about it because they, in their ideology, they're helping the minority and they're helping the immigrants and they're doing a good deed. And Trump is a white supremacist. So you got to understand who you're dealing with. Their mindset is already made up. You cannot deal with them with logic or rules or laws or the justice. And forget that. They won't listen. The only way to get to them is to show the other American people, the ones that are still in the middle, the consequences of what they're doing and keep amplifying those. Number two, I really appreciate Marco, I think the 400 South Oregon guy or whatever. I like his comments. I think he's a little slow at talking, but he's very intelligent. I wish he'd get his thoughts a little more concentrated.
Okay.
And the third thing I want to say, I don't know if I can get them up right now, but I had those of you who accuse me of wanting a theocracy. I was able to get a list of the prayers and the prayers and the quotes by George Washington and people like that. So I don't know if I have time to just read a couple of them. If not, maybe you can hold me over. But just to show you that the theocracy that you all are afraid of, because you see, when you get rid of Christianity as a basic foundation for rules or principles or an ideology or a moral standard, shall we say, for our government, nature does not allow a vacuum. Something's going to get in there. And what's happening is when you guys turn down Christianity because it's quote unquote religious, then what you end up with is humanism and Darwinism and survival of the fittest and, like what happened in Russia with all this murdering and killing, and we came from monkeys, therefore our lives don't matter. But just real quickly, George Washington is quoted as saying, it is impossible to rightly govern the world without God in the Bible, okay? John Adams called the Bible the best book in the world. Thomas Jefferson, I have always said and always will say that the studious pursual of the sacred volume will make a better citizen and a better country. John Quincy Adams, my custom is to read 4 or 5 chapters before every morning. It gives me guidance throughout the day. These are people who founded our country. The last one, President Abraham Lincoln. I am profitably engaged in reading the Bible. Take all this book upon reason that you can, and the balance by faith, and you will live a better life and die a better man. So there's no question that our country, our founding fathers, who created the best system in the world, by the way, and even though they were not perfect, I know about the Native Americans and I know about the slave trade, but nevertheless, they laid the foundation for the best freedom in the world and the best provision of goods and services for people around the world. So people, please wake up before it's too late. Read your Bibles, read how it ends. We cannot stop the one world government, but we can stave off as long as possible to give people time to come to our Lord and Savior before all hell breaks loose. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. What I'll say this is I'll agree with you on the idea that nature abhors a vacuum, because it obviously does. And removing something means that something will invariably come to take its place, whether through an expanding influence, a new influence, or a changed one. And I honestly don't really care where anyone gets their morals, but I will agree with you that the understanding and the, continuation of moral teachings is very key. Because sure, you may look at just straight, like, rote impacts society means for a lot of laws, but that the actual act of passing on to the next generation is incredibly important. So that's why, I mean, I've been accused of embracing theocracy as well. And yeah, I'm in no way, shape, or form interested in religious rule of this country. But what I will also say on the other side of that is that the First Amendment, particularly in its, not limiting the practice and free exercise of religion, does not mean that you cannot bring that reasoning yourself to how we are making these decisions here. So when you start saying you have to live by my religious rules, then we've got issues. But I don't think we're there particularly in a lot of ways, but that debate will continue on, and we got to take that next break now. So coming out of this break, tell you what we got coming up for you, close out the show, and we'll talk more about the things affecting us here in the borderlands. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still looking at some delays from a crash. A couple on the I-10 westbound, one at Reynolds that's causing delays. Back to Geronimo. I-10 westbound at McRae. Those lanes have reopened from that earlier crash. West of downtown, San Antonio Avenue at Paisano, an injury accident there. And a crash with heavy congestion. Global Reach southbound at Montana Avenue. Stop and go traffic there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has what you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Now Crayola 10-count markers and 12-count color pencils are just 99 cents each, and Staples one-subject notebooks are just 35 cents each, in-store only. Offer ends 8/27, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples.
Hey, El Paso. Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy, and our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $1,667 and 2.9% APR is $1,515 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT, and TRX models.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention. Like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We've had a hell of a time here today, and we'll keep doing it every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. as we do. One last comment I want to get to here. James Radcliffe, last comment for the day and for the week. Why is it so hard to believe that Biden will not step down? The Great Britain Prime Minister did. Well, we're talking about completely different systems. If you want to really be specific about the Great Britain system, they also have elections within the span of like 2 months. Can you imagine? I would both love and hate that because it would take away half the stuff we talk about, but also the idea of elections just being done like that and not we're already talking about 2024 already, so maybe there's something to be said for it, but completely different, and, well, the ruling and the ability to do so changed, but in any case, we'll be back with you Monday, 4 to 6 p.m. as we are Monday through Friday. Don't forget to tune into the El Paso History Radio Show coming up this weekend, talking about the dedication of a Texas historical marker to Felix Martinez, talking with his great-grandson. But otherwise, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash, I-10 westbound at Reynolds is still slowing traffic. I-10 westbound is slow with 5-minute delays between Airway Boulevard and Patriot. Westbound on the Border Highway at Midway, a stalled vehicle is off to the right. And west of downtown San Antonio at westbound Paisano, a pretty serious accident slowing traffic there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
The following program will be recorded.
Stay informed. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Biden is continuing to work in isolation after he tested positive for COVID this week. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
As we know, COVID is not unusual, right? This is something that we